Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. If you're new here, hi, my name is Rina and welcome to my channel. In today's video we're going to talk about all the books I've read in the month of September, and let me tell you, it was a very good reading month. I'm very happy with all of the books I've read, so I can't wait to get into it. So let's get into the books I've read in the month of September. First I'm going to give you like a little breakdown on what genres I read and how many books I read. So, out of the eight books, I read 3 fantasy books, 3 romance books, 1 non-fiction, and 1 paranormal romance book. So, let's get into the books I've read in the month of September. So, the first book I finished reading this month was Heartstopper by Alice Osman. This is a graphic novel, and it was my first graphic... No, it wasn't my first. I've read a graphic novel before, but it was the first English graphic novel also. So yeah, this book follows Charlie and Nick, and it is a male-male love romance, and is also a young adult. I think everyone by now knows what this is about. So it's about Nick and Charlie, and they start as friends, but there's evolving amount of a romantic relationship between the two of them. It's part of a series. There are a couple of other books, and I really am interested to read all of those other books, so I'm definitely going to do that. I thought it was a little bit difficult to rate this book because I've never really read like a graphic novel once, and I once read one, but it's a long time ago. So I think I just gave it like a rating that I think it would fit, but maybe the series overall will be a little bit more. So I gave Heartstopper 4 stars, which is a great start. So yeah. Then the next book I read was Icebreaker. I read this in the 12-hour readathon. So this book is the first book in the Maple Hill series, and it follows Anastasia and, let me look up the name, Nathan. And Nathan is a hockey player, and Anastasia is an ice skater. And they go to the same college, and there's something that's happening. It's a romance. It is also spicy, so be aware of that. If you want to get into the series, all of the books are spicy. So yeah, I give this book 4 stars. I really loved the book. It reads so easily. I still have to read Daydream by Hannah Grace, but I'm no doubt this will also be like 4 stars at that range, because her books reach so fast paced, and they're really good palate cleansers to read in between other books. So I really recommend reading this series. But there's also a little bit more to the romance. There's also some deeper problems that both of the characters have, and I really think that's nice. There's a little bit more depth to them. So yeah, really liked it. Then the next book I read was also in the 12-hour readathon, was Bride by Ellie Hazelwood. I was so excited to read this book. It's been one of my anticipating books to read. It's also a very different book from her other books, like The Love Hypothesis, Love Theoretically, because it's not a STEM romance, it's more like a paranormal romance. So this book follows Misery and Lo. Misery is a vampire and Lo is a werewolf, and there is the vampires and werewolves, they do not get along, you know. So there is an agreement that the both of them are going to get married, so there's like a truce between the vampires and werewolves. But there's a lot more going on to it. So yeah, what I really liked about this book was that the romance didn't come immediately. Like it was evolving throughout the story while you were reading, and I really love that about it. It also reads so easy. I really love Ellie Hazelwood, her writing. It just gets you immediately, and I really love that about her. And for not being her normal genre, I really think she did a very good job, because yeah, it was just really fun to read. And the perfect time to read this is now in October, with the fall, with the vampires and the werewolves. So really recommend reading this. I give this book 5 stars, obviously. Love Ellie Hazelwood writing, and I also really loved the characters in this, Misery and Lo. So yeah, really recommend reading this book, especially during this time of the year. Then the next book I read was also, I started reading this in the 12-hour reading time, but I didn't finish it. And the first book, that was Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This is the first book in the Caraval trilogy, so there are 2 books after this, and you also have the Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber that's also in the same world. So the story follows Scarlett and Della, and they are sisters, and there is this magical caravel going on around the world, and they really want to visit it. But they have a very strict father, and it's a little bit difficult to visit it. Like, the caravel only comes once a year, and it's never at the same place. It doesn't come at the same place twice. So yeah, you have like the guy who's all behind it. His name is Legend, and Scarlett is the oldest sister, and she keeps writing to him because she really wants to visit it with her sister Della. And eventually they get to play and they get to visit Caraval. But a lot of things are going to happen. It was such a good book. It's a YA fantasy, and it got me hooked from the start. I also annotated this book, and it was wow. I just keep thinking about it. The writing was so easy. There was some very good lines in it, if I may say, if I'm being honest. I also love the characters because in this it follows Scarlett, her POV, which I really loved, because the next book, I read this, by the way, 5 stars, because I read also the next book, Finale by Stephanie Garber. This is the next book in the Caraval series. And so in this book you follow Scarlett, her POV, and in this you follow it in another one's POV. I can't really spoil it because if I say something I will spoil something. So I'm not going to do that. But also really love this, and I think it's a very good sequel to the first book. Also annotated a lot. I binged these books so much. I was just... Stephanie Garber put something in these books that is so addictive. It's insane. So yeah, I really recommend reading this. So also 5 stars. And I obviously also read the last book in the series, and that is Legendary by Caraval, and I also rated this 5 stars. I can't really tell much about these 2 books because I maybe spoil some things to you guys, which wouldn't be fun, obviously. But I'm very glad I read this series, and overall is like a 6-star series for me. I will definitely reread it someday, and by reading this it makes me even more interested to also read the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. But I'm currently on a book buying ban, so it will have to wait after my book buying ban is done, and that will be in February. So that's a long time I have to wait, but it's okay. It will all be worth it when I get to buy new books again, you know? So I really recommend reading this series. Also, it is a fantasy, but it's really accessible and easy to read. The writing is not that hard to understand. Also, it's a magic system, and the magical world is really easy. It's also a young adult, which makes it that accessible. So if you're looking for like a really cozy, fun fantasy book for this time of the year, I really recommend checking this series out. So then I read an ARC. I got an ARC copy of Before You by Amber Hart. I read this book very quickly. It's a young adult romance book, and it follows I forgot the names. I'm so bad at remembering names. I'm going to look it up. I'm sorry. So I got this on as an ARC from Love Notes PR, so very thankful for that. So yeah, it follows Faith, and Faith is a school captain of the dance team, and she's like the very good girl. Her father is a how is it called? A pastor? True, yeah, right? Yeah, so she has to keep up a good face, and she has to do everything right because like her father is in a big position. And then she meets Diego. He is a new guy to the school, and she is going to lead him around, but he is more kind of a bad guy. He comes from Cuba and has a lot of history because he left Cuba for reason, and yeah, it is difficult. It's intense. Yeah, it's a really easy book. It reads very easily. I did like it, but the writing for me felt a little bit bland sometimes because it was just really, I don't know. It was good. It was a good, fun, easy read. So if you're looking for a book that is easy to read and is fast-paced, I really recommend reading this. But I felt not connected to the characters at all. I liked them, but nothing more than that. So yeah, but I gave this book 3 stars because I really did like it and it was good, and I would recommend this book. Then the next book, actually the last book, but I forgot talking about it before. That is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Janet McCurdy. This is a non-fiction book and it's from Janet McCurdy. She talks about her mother who passed away, and it's divided into parts. So you have the first part is before her mom died, and then the second part is after her mom passed away. I really enjoyed this. I also listened to quite a bit of this as an audiobook, which I really recommend doing because Janet McCurdy herself is narrating the story, which makes it even more personal. I found it really interesting to hear more about her as a career in the film industry as a young girl, and also how her relationship with her mother was part of that. So yeah, if you maybe don't know Janet McCurdy, she's from a very famous series on Nickelodeon, iCarly and Sam and Cat. And yeah, it's really tells her all her story, especially her bond with her mother, which is also very interesting to see and also kind of heartbreaking. So yeah, really recommend reading this. I'm not going to rate this because it's a person's life and I'm not going to rate someone's life. So yeah, but I recommend reading and picking it up. If you don't like to read it, you also can listen to it as an audiobook, which I also really recommend doing. Then, that were all the 8 books I read in the month of September. As you can see, there aren't a few of the books. There's literally 1 book I read of my September TBR. I'm sorry, I failed. I failed so hard. I don't know why, but I just picked up the Caravel series and I was so invested, and I'm also reading another book still since like August. So yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm going to do better in October. I'm really going to try to read all of my books of my October TBR. I'm going to try. Just bear with me. I'm going to try. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what your favorite read was of the month of September, and if you've got to finish all of your September TBR books, let me know down in the comments. If you liked the video, definitely like and subscribe, and see you next time. Bye!